Welcome back to Enhancements in the Synchronization Editor. After we saw something about usability enhancements, we are now stepping to the supportability, and Marcus tells us about new implemented report features.
The synchronization journal has been enhanced to include the log settings from the point in time the journal was created, and it also includes the workflow step timing. So how long does each of the individual workflow steps was running when you executed the synchronization process. In case of an error, the system allows you now to configure that you want to store the properties of the object that lead to that error, that those properties are also included inside of the report. The additional logging options can be configured. So the error logging can be configured on the target system connection as before, and there's an additional step, this one here, failed objects including modified properties and values. So when you activate that, the journal will also include all the properties for the object that had errors during the synchronization. So how does the new journal look like? So there's a new section here in the journal that includes the journal settings. So how was the logging configured? So now you can easily see when the logging is turned off, the section will also be included to hint for the fact that the logging was disabled. So you're not wondering why there are no changes logged in the journal. And the additional log messages here contain the timings of each of the individual workflow steps. So you can see here that the updating of the revision information took 0.42 seconds, and the synchronization step INetLog person took 3.21 seconds, and so on. In addition to that synchronization journal, we included an synchronization analysis report. And this report is mainly intended for support personnel when a synchronization has some issues, so some time issues, some steps are taking very long. You could run that synchronization analysis report, and it contains some more debug information about how the access to that external target system or to the One Identity Manager database, how long does it take. And in that report you can see how many items you do have in the attached data store, which maybe is a problem when you have a lot of entries in the attached data store. You can see how the revision filtering is configured, or if you do have any scope filtering, this will be listed. And here you can see how long does it take to read a list of objects from the target system and from the One Identity Manager side. For example, here I do have 200 INetLog person objects in my LLAB system, and the average read time for that object is 79 milliseconds, and so on. So this can be used for analysis when you do have performance problems or any other problems, and it could be used by the support personnel. And last but not least, we do edit an nlog viewer here. This is the operations log inside of the synchronization editor. So when you want to debug your connection, for example, when you created your own database connection scripts and so on, you could use that directly, as we have integrated the same viewer already in Manager or Object Browser. And you could turn on here the debug logging level or the trace logging level without having to change the global log configuration file, which you normally would have to change. So I'm turning on trace now. And then I'm going to use the target system browser. Let's say I'm using a list of INetLog person objects, 200, and I'm opening one object. And when you take a look at the synchronization log now, I'm going to stop that here. You can see all the debug and trace messages the system generates. And let's say just debug. You can see here object query results, 200 system objects. This is a list of INetLog person objects I have loaded, and the single object INetLog person I have opened, and so on and so on. So you can see here all the debug and trace messages.
And two more nice supportability features. You may remember that in the synchronization editor, there is the target system browser, and the target system browser allows you to open as well on the target system side a single object, and you can use it like an ATSI editor just to change data and to press save. If you press save, then the interface, that means the connection from the Identity Manager to the target system, gets tested, and more or less senseful data gets written into the target system. How senseful the data is, that is directly depending on your values you add to this editor. What was not possible in the past and is implemented now is that you can as well open an Identity Manager object in Synchronization Editor and use the complete data mapping and matching rules that are implemented to save this object into your corresponding system. That means all in the mapping rules included virtual properties, all data conversions, all that stuff gets used by testing a specific object synchronization. This is what we name a test mapping for ad hoc provisioning, and it helps you now to debug your mapping rules. A second part is that you have seen that maybe in a video before. There is a button that allows us in the synchronization editor to start script debugging, which it's implemented everywhere in the script editor where underlying code exists. And that opens a Visual Studio and opens your synchronization project so that you can stepwise debug your script with the full comfort such a Visual Studio provides. Two more features optimizing the performance. Feature number one, it's an enhanced M2N merge mode between users and groups. Please remember, users and groups typically takes a lot of time, and our developers found something that allows to speed up this specific process. The second one is that you can turn off retries. That sounds not very interesting, but it's a very interesting feature for error handling. Please remember, if objects are somewhere missing in the target system or in the database, the system typically retries a configured amount of times to fetch this object out of the system. And it cancels once the retries are over. In a target system or a database where a lot of objects are missing for whatever else reason, a simulation or a synchronization that should show or solve the problem could take a long time because of all of these retries. In version 7.1, it is possible to turn off retries for error debugging and error handling. And if that happens, you will speed up your sync incredibly.